The message arrived on a Tuesday morning, though the beings who sent it had no concept of Earth's calendar. It traveled through space for 3 weeks before reaching the communication satellites orbiting Mars. The transmission was clean, precise, and carried the weight of official business. Someone wanted to talk to humanity, and they wanted it to happen soon. Admiral Park reviewed the message for the 5th time in his office at Unified Earth Command. The holographic display showed strange symbols that the translation AI had worked through, converting alien thought patterns into something humans could understand. The message was simple enough. The Galactic Council invited Earth to send a representative to a neutral meeting station. They provided coordinates, a time window, and basic docking protocols. "It's real then," said Captain Daewon, standing across from the Admiral's desk. He had been called in from the lunar shipyards where his crew was running final tests on the new systems. "First contact with a multi-species government. Real and immediate," Admiral Park replied. He was an older man with gray hair and sharp eyes that had seen humanity's worst conflicts. "They want us there in 2 weeks. Standard diplomatic meeting, they say." Daewon studied the translated message. Something about it felt off, though he couldn't place exactly what. The tone was polite but carried an assumption that bothered him. They expected Earth to simply show up, follow their rules, and fit into whatever system they had built. "What ship are we sending?" Daewon asked. The Admiral smiled, and it was not a pleasant expression. "Yours," Daewon blinked. "Sir, the Indomitable is a warship. A Dreadnought-class capital ship. Surely they're expecting something smaller. A diplomatic shuttle or a science vessel?" "They're getting what we choose to send," Admiral Park said firmly. "We've had 3 encounters with unknown vessels in our system over the past year. 2 were hostile. 1 destroyed a mining colony on Europa before our defense fleet drove it off. We lost 400 people," Daewon remembered. He had led one of the response squadrons, arriving too late to do anything but document the damage. "The galaxy isn't safe," the Admiral continued. "We don't know these council species. We don't know their intentions. What we do know is that we're alone out here. And every species we've met so far has either run away or tried to kill us. So yes, Captain, we're sending our best ship with our best crew. If they wanted a defenseless shuttle, they should have made that clear." 2 days later, Commander Taemin arrived aboard the Indomitable along with the diplomatic contingent. He was younger than Daewon by 10 years, with an easy smile and sharp political instincts. Earth Command had assigned him as first officer specifically for this mission. "Captain," Taemin said, offering a crisp salute on the bridge. "Reporting as ordered. I've brought our diplomatic team. Dr. Yunji is setting up in the science bay and the translators are calibrating their equipment." Daewon returned the salute. "Welcome aboard, Commander. I hope your people understand that this is still a military vessel. We run tight schedules and strict protocols." "They understand," Taemin assured him. Dr. Yunji in particular is excited. She's been studying the message structure for patterns. Says she can learn a lot about how these beings think, just from how they construct sentences. Lieutenant Hana looked up from her tactical station. She was the youngest officer on the bridge, barely 26, but her strategic scores were the highest in the fleet. "Captain, all weapons systems are showing green. Shields are calibrated. We can launch whenever you're ready." "How do we look?" Daewon asked. Hana pulled up a display showing the ship's status. The Indomitable was 3 kilometers of Earth's finest engineering. 68 rail cannons lined its hull. 12 missile batteries carried enough firepower to level a small moon. Its shields could withstand a nuclear blast. The reactor core generated more power than some small nations had used in Earth's industrial age. "We're as ready as we'll ever be," Hana said. "Honestly, sir, I'm more worried about scaring them than fighting them." Daewon smiled slightly. "Let's hope it doesn't come to either." The launch went smoothly. The Indomitable pulled away from lunar orbit, with the kind of grace that seemed impossible for something so massive. The crew numbered 4,000, all trained for combat operations. They didn't know if they were going to a diplomatic meeting or a potential battle, so they prepared for both. Dr. Yunji came to the bridge on their 3rd day of travel. She was a small woman with bright eyes and an endless curiosity about everything. She carried a datapad filled with notes. "Captain, I need to show you something," she said. Daewon nodded for her to continue. "I've been analyzing the Council's message structure. The way they phrased things, the assumptions they made. They expected us to send something small. A scout ship or a shuttle, maybe 100 meters long at most." Commander Taemin frowned. "How can you tell that from a message?" The docking protocols they sent, Yunji explained. They specified bay sizes, power connections, and data transfer rates. Everything is scaled for a small craft. They're not expecting anything like the Indomitable. Should we warn them? Taemin asked. Daewon considered it. No. We responded to their message and confirmed we were coming. If they made assumptions, that's their error, not ours. We follow their coordinates and their timeline. What ship we bring is our choice. Lieutenant Hana was studying her sensors. Sir, we're approaching the coordinates they provided. Dropping to sublight in 30 seconds. All hands prepare for real space transition, Daewon announced. Shields to full power. I want weapons ready but cold. We're here to talk, not fight. But I won't have us vulnerable. The ship shuddered as it dropped out of faster-than-light travel. The main view screen cleared, showing a structure floating in deep space. It was beautiful in its own way, a station built from materials that shimmered like pearl. Smaller ships dotted the space around it, none larger than a few hundred meters. Detecting multiple energy signatures, Hana reported. 37 ships total. Various sizes and configurations. Power readings suggest civilian or light patrol craft. There's the station itself. It's big, maybe 2 kilometers across. Any weapons locks? Daewon asked. No, sir. They're not targeting us, Hana paused. Wait, sir, I'm picking up rapid movement. The smaller ships are changing position. They're surrounding us. On the view screen, the alien ships were indeed moving. They formed a loose sphere around the Indomitable, though they kept their distance. Are they threatening us? Taemin asked. No, Hana said slowly. I think they're scared. Dr. Yunji moved closer to the screen. Look at their positions. They're trying to look defensive, but they're staying far back. They've never seen anything like our ship. A communication signal came through. The translation AI worked through it and a voice emerged. It was high-pitched, nervous, and very clearly upset. Unknown vessel, this is Council Station Harmony. You are not the craft we expected. Identify yourself immediately. Daewon straightened in his command chair. This is Captain Daewon of the United Earth stellar ship Indomitable. We received your invitation and have come to meet with the Galactic Council as requested. There was a long pause. Then the voice returned, even more strained. You were supposed to send a small diplomatic shuttle. This is a warship. A massive warship. Why have you brought a weapon of war to a peace meeting? Commander Taemin looked at Daewon with concern. The captain kept his expression neutral. This is Earth's response to your invitation, Daewon said calmly. We bring our finest ship and our best crew. We mean no disrespect. We came prepared for any possibility. Another pause, longer this time. Daewon could imagine the panic happening on that station. They had expected something small and harmless. Instead, they got a ship that could probably destroy their entire defensive fleet without breaking a sweat. Stand by, the voice finally said. The Council is convening an emergency session. Do not power weapons. Do not approach the station. Any hostile action will be met with force. The channel cut off. Lieutenant Hana checked her tactical display. Sir, those ships couldn't scratch our paint. If they opened fire, we could disable them all in less than a minute. Which is exactly why we won't, Daewon said firmly. We hold position. We keep weapons cold. We wait. Dr. Yunji was making notes on her pad. This is fascinating. We've already created a massive diplomatic incident and we haven't even docked yet. Taemin rubbed his temples. Earth Command is going to love this. Daewon watched the alien ships on the screen. Somewhere on that station, beings from across the galaxy were arguing about what to do with humanity. They had expected a small craft. They had expected humanity to follow rules they didn't know existed. They had expected Earth to be like them. But Earth had learned its lessons through fire and blood. Humanity didn't go into the unknown with hope alone. They went prepared, ready, and capable of protecting themselves. Get the diplomatic team ready, Daewon ordered. One way or another, we're going to have our meeting. And they're going to learn exactly what kind of species humanity is. The wait lasted 3 hours. Captain Daewon spent the time reviewing everything Earth knew about galactic politics. Which wasn't much. Dr. Yunji wandered the bridge, studying the alien ships through the sensors, making notes about their design and energy signatures. Commander Taemin prepared his diplomatic team, running through scenarios and possible outcomes. Lieutenant Hana never left her tactical station. She watched the alien ships like a hawk, tracking every movement, every power fluctuation. The aliens were nervous. Their ships kept adjusting position, never settling into a comfortable formation. They didn't know what to do with the Indomitable, and their uncertainty showed in every action they took. "Captain," Hana said quietly, "one of their ships just powered up its weapons." Daewon's attention snapped to the tactical display. A small patrol craft, maybe 80 meters long, had activated what looked like energy projectors along its hull. "Are they targeting us?" he asked. "No, sir. I think it's just nerves. The weapon signature is weak. It would barely scratch our shields." Hana paused. "Should I lock onto them? Just as a precaution?" "No," Daewon said firmly. "We stay passive. Let them see that we're not a threat unless provoked." Commander Taemin approached the command chair. "Sir, that's actually good strategy. We're showing restraint. They have to notice that a ship this powerful is sitting here peacefully despite their aggressive posturing." "Assuming they think like we do," Dr. Yunji added. She had moved to the science station. "We don't know how they interpret military action. What looks like restraint to us might look like weakness to them, or worse, like we're preparing for something." Before anyone could respond, the communication channel opened again. "UESS Indomitable, this is Council Station Harmony. The Council has agreed to meet with your delegation. However, due to the unexpected nature of your vessel, we are implementing special protocols." "Understood," Daewon replied. "What protocols?" "Your warship will remain at its current position. You will send a small shuttle with no more than 6 individuals. The shuttle must be unarmed. You will be scanned before boarding the station. Any weapons or hostile technology will result in immediate termination of this meeting." Daewon glanced at Taemin, who nodded. It was reasonable, all things considered. "Agreed," Daewon said. "We'll launch our shuttle within the hour. One more thing," the alien voice continued. "The Council demands an explanation for why you brought a warship to a diplomatic meeting. This breach of protocol is unprecedented and deeply concerning. We'll explain everything when we meet face to face," Daewon said. "Captain out." The channel closed. Taemin let out a breath he'd been holding. Well, at least they're still willing to talk. "They're terrified," Dr. Yunji said. "That's why they're talking. They don't know what we'll do if they refuse. They're trying to understand us while keeping us at arm's length." Daewon stood from his chair. "Commander, select your team. Take Dr. Yunji with you. She can read them better than any of us. Choose 3 others from the diplomatic corps and 1 security officer." "You're not coming?" Taemin asked, surprised. "I'm the ship's captain. My place is here. You're better at diplomacy anyway. Just remember that every word you say represents all of humanity." "No pressure," Taemin smiled weakly. "None at all." An hour later, the shuttle departed from the Indomitable's main bay. It was a standard transport, barely 30 meters long, unarmed as requested. Inside, Commander Taemin sat with Dr. Yunji, 3 diplomats named Ji-won, Sung-ho, and Mina, and a security officer named Kyung-soo, who looked uncomfortable being told he couldn't bring weapons. "Approaching the station," the pilot announced. "They're directing us to a docking bay on the eastern section." Through the shuttle's windows, they could see the station more clearly. It was beautiful, built from materials that seemed to glow with soft light. Curved structures connected spherical modules, creating a design that looked more like art than engineering. "It's gorgeous," Mina whispered. She was the youngest diplomat, fresh from the academy, and her eyes were wide with wonder. "Stay focused," Taemin said gently. "Beautiful or not, this is still a negotiation with unknown parties." The shuttle docked smoothly. The airlock cycled, and the door opened to reveal a corridor that seemed to be made of living crystal. Lights pulsed through it in waves of color. The air smelled strange, like flowers mixed with something metallic. "Breathable atmosphere," Dr. Yunji confirmed, checking her handheld scanner. "Oxygen levels are actually higher than Earth standard. Temperature is comfortable. No biological threats detected." They walked down the corridor, their footsteps echoing strangely. At the end, a large door dilated open, revealing a chamber beyond. What they saw stopped them in their tracks. The room was circular and huge, at least 100 meters across. Around the edges stood beings from different species, and the variety was staggering. There were tall beings covered in what looked like scales, short ones with too many arms, something that looked like it was made of living crystal similar to the walls. A being that floated in the air, its body translucent and shifting. But the most striking was the one who stepped forward to greet them. It looked like a massive insect, standing upright on 4 legs with 2 more limbs that could have been arms. Its head was triangular, with multiple eyes that glittered like black diamonds. When it spoke, The translator device on Taemin's collar converted the clicking sounds into words. I am Ambassador Velthar of the Galactic Council. On behalf of the 73 member species, I welcome you to this meeting. You are the first of your kind we have encountered. Commander Taemin stepped forward and bowed slightly, a gesture of respect. I am Commander Taemin of the United Earth Stellar Navy. This is Dr. Yunji, our Chief Science Officer, and our diplomatic team. We thank you for this meeting. Velthar's insect head tilted in a way that might have been curiosity. You are much larger than we expected. Your physical form is quite imposing. Taemin glanced at Yunji, who was barely over 5 feet tall. He himself was of average height for a human. Looking around at the alien species, he realized that most of them were smaller than humans, some significantly so. We come in peace, Taemin said, using the oldest first contact phrase in human imagination. We mean no harm to the Council or its members. Yet you brought a warship, said another voice. This came from one of the scaled beings, larger and more aggressive-looking than Velthar. A massive warship. The largest vessel any of us have seen in 3 generations. Why? Dr. Yunji stepped forward before Taemin could respond. May I speak freely? Velthar gestured with one limb. Please, we didn't know, Yunji said simply. Your message asked us to come to this meeting. It didn't specify what kind of ship to bring. We assumed you wanted to see our best, our most capable vessel. In human culture, when you're invited somewhere important, you dress in your finest. You bring your best. The Indomitable is our finest ship. We brought it as a sign of respect. The chamber fell silent. The aliens looked at each other, and though their faces were impossible for humans to read, the body language suggested confusion. You brought a weapon of war as a sign of respect? The scaled being asked. Its voice was deep and carried a tone of disbelief. It's more than a weapon, Taemin said. It's a symbol of what humanity has achieved. Our technology, our determination, our capability. Yes, it can fight, but it can also protect, explore, and represent our species with pride. The floating, translucent being spoke, its voice like wind chimes. You do not understand. In council space, when species come to diplomatic meetings, they bring minimal vessels. Small ships with small crews. It demonstrates trust. It shows you are not preparing for war. By bringing your warship, you have sent a very different message. Taemin felt his stomach sink. This was the misunderstanding Dr. Yunji had warned about, but worse than they'd imagined. We had no intention of threatening anyone, he said carefully, but I must be honest with you. Humanity is new to galactic affairs. We've only left our home system recently, and in that time we've been attacked twice by unknown vessels. We lost hundreds of lives. We don't know who our enemies are or where they'll strike next. So yes, we brought our warship. Not to threaten you, but because we've learned that the galaxy is dangerous. We won't go anywhere unprepared. Ambassador Velthar made a sound that the translator couldn't convert. You've been attacked? By whom? We don't know, Dr. Yunji said. The attackers destroyed our colony and left. We never identified their species. Another alien spoke, this one small and covered in what looked like feathers. The Raiders. It must be the Raiders. They've been attacking the outer sectors for years. We've lost ships and stations to them. And what does the Council do about these Raiders? Kyung-soo asked. The security officer had been silent until now, but his question carried weight. The aliens exchanged looks again. Finally, Velthar answered. We file reports. We increase patrols in affected areas. We negotiate when possible. We are a peaceful assembly. We don't maintain a military force beyond basic defense. Taemin understood then. The Council wasn't a military alliance. They were a diplomatic organization, built on the idea that talking could solve problems. They had patrol craft for policing, but nothing designed for actual war. So when raiders attack, Taemin said slowly, you just accept the losses? The chaos in the council chamber was immediate. Aliens rushed in every direction, some toward control panels, others toward what looked like emergency exits. The beautiful lights that had pulsed through the crystal walls now flashed in harsh red patterns. The sound of the alarms was painful to human ears, a high-pitched wail that made it hard to think. Commander Taemin grabbed Dr. Yunji's arm. We need to get back to the shuttle. Wait, Ambassador Velthar said, moving toward them with surprising speed on its 4 legs. You cannot leave yet. The docking bays are sealed during attack protocols. You're trapped here until the threat is resolved. Kyung-soo, the security officer, moved to stand between the diplomats and the rest of the chamber. His hand instinctively went to his hip where his weapon should have been, finding nothing. How long until the raiders get here? Minutes, said the scaled being who had questioned them earlier. Its name, the translator now provided, was General Crix. Perhaps 5, perhaps 10. They always strike fast. They'll disable our defense ships, board the station, take what they want, and leave. And you just let them? G1 asked, her voice rising. You don't fight back? With what? Crix growled. The general's frustration was clear even across species barriers. Our patrol ships have light weapons meant for policing, not warfare. We've lost 3 ships in previous raids. The Council forbids us from developing heavier arms. They say it would start an arms race, make the galaxy more dangerous. Taemin pulled out his communication device. Commander Taemin to Indomitable, do you read? Static answered him. Then Captain Daewon's voice cut through. We read you, Commander. We're tracking multiple hostile vessels entering the sector. Count shows 12 ships, various sizes. They're moving fast toward your position. Captain, the station is under attack. We're sealed in the council chamber. Can you assist? There was a pause. Then Daewon spoke again, his voice calm and measured. Commander, we weren't invited to protect this station. We're guests here, and uninvited military action could create a diplomatic disaster. I need clear authorization. Taemin looked at Ambassador Velthar. Will you accept our help? The insect-like ambassador's multiple eyes focused on him. Around them, other council members had stopped their panicked movements and were listening. The floating translucent being drifted closer. The small feathered alien watched intently. You want to fight the raiders? Velthar asked. With your warship? That's what it's designed for, Taemin said simply. We can protect the station and your ships, but we need your permission. This is your space, your jurisdiction. General Crix stepped forward. I say yes. Let the humans fight. We've been helpless against the raiders for too long. But we don't know what they'll do, another alien said. This one with too many arms and a nervous posture. The humans could be worse than the raiders. That warship could destroy the station. Then we'll die either way, Crix snapped. At least if we let the humans help, we have a chance. Ambassador Velthar looked around the chamber at the other council members. Some nodded. Some made gestures that might have meant agreement in their cultures. Some remained still uncertain. Very well, Velthar said finally. On behalf of the Galactic Council, I authorize the UESS Indomitable to engage the raiders. Protect this station and our ships. But know this, humans. If you betray our trust, if you harm innocent beings, the entire council will mark your species as enemies. Taemin brought the communicator back to his mouth. Captain Daewon, you have authorization to engage. Protect the station. Try to capture raiders if possible. We need to learn who they are. Understood, Commander. Even through the small speaker, they could hear the shift in Daewon's voice. He was no longer a diplomat or an explorer. He was a warship captain, and someone had just given him a mission. All hands battle stations. Lieutenant Hana, target the hostile vessels. Weapons free. I want clean shots. Disable their engines first, weapons second. Let's show these raiders what a real warship looks like. On the station, the council members moved to a large display screen that showed the space around them. The humans joined them, watching as the tactical situation unfolded. The raider ships were ugly things, built from mismatched parts, covered in armor plating welded at odd angles. They moved in a loose formation, clearly experienced at this kind of attack. 3 of them were already engaging the council patrol ships, energy weapons flashing in the darkness. Then the Indomitable moved. It had been holding position, distant and passive. Now it accelerated with shocking speed for something so large. The massive warship crossed the distance in seconds, its shield generators glowing as they powered up to full strength. Detecting weapons lock, one of the aliens at a control station announced. Its voice trembled. The human ship is targeting the raiders. All 12 ships? Asked Velthar. No, all 37 targets. Every weapon system on every raider ship. The humans have locked onto everything simultaneously. Dr. Yunji felt a chill run down her spine. She knew the Indomitable had advanced targeting computers, but seeing it in action was different. The ship was tracking and preparing to fire on 36 targets at once. The first raider ship never saw it coming. One moment it was firing on a council patrol craft. The next 3 railgun rounds struck its engine section. The rounds didn't explode. They didn't need to. They were solid metal slugs traveling at a significant fraction of light speed. They punched through the raider's hull like paper, destroying the engine core and leaving the ship drifting and powerless. 5 seconds later, 3 more raider ships went dark. What are they doing? The feathered alien whispered. How are they so precise? Training, Kyung-soo said quietly. Years of it, decades, centuries really. Humans have been fighting each other for so long that we learned how to fight very, very well. The raiders realized they were in trouble. Their formation broke apart as they tried to scatter, to present multiple targets moving in different directions. It was a smart tactic against most enemies. It didn't work against the Indomitable. Lieutenant Hana, watching from her tactical station aboard the warship, allowed herself a small smile. The raiders were using evasion pattern Delta 7, a common military maneuver that Earth naval forces had been using for 40 years. She'd studied it in academy. More importantly, she'd studied how to counter it. Adjusting fire patterns, she announced. Compensating for evasive maneuvers. Missiles away. 12 missiles launched from the Indomitable's batteries. They were smart weapons, equipped with their own tracking systems and decision-making computers. Each one picked a target and pursued it with single-minded determination. The raiders tried to shoot them down. Energy beams and projectile weapons filled the space with defensive fire. They managed to destroy 3 missiles. The other 9 reached their targets. More raider ships went silent, their engines destroyed, their weapons offline. Captain, Hana reported, 9 hostiles disabled. 3 remaining raiders are attempting to flee. Don't let them, Day 1 ordered. Helm intercept course. Maximum speed. Hana, target their faster-than-light drives. I don't want them jumping away. The Indomitable surged forward again. The 3 fleeing raiders were fast, but the human warship was faster. Within 30 seconds, it had closed the distance. 3 precise shots, 3 disabled ships. Total engagement time, 8 minutes and 43 seconds. On the station, the council chamber was absolutely silent. The aliens stared at the display screen, at the 12 raider ships now floating helplessly in space. Not one had been destroyed. All were disabled, captured, ready to be boarded and investigated. The council patrol ships, which had been fighting desperately, now floated among the debris, their crews likely in shock. Impossible, General Crick said softly. The raiders have plagued us for years. They've destroyed dozens of ships, raided hundreds of stations. We've never stopped them, never even slowed them down. And the humans defeated them in less than 9 minutes. Ambassador Velthar turned to look at Commander Taemin. What are you? Taemin met the ambassador's gaze. We're human. We're survivors. We're warriors when we need to be, and we just showed you what that means. Dr. Yunji was watching the other council members. She could see fear in their body language, the way they leaned away from the humans, the way some of them looked at exits. But she also saw something else. Hope, perhaps, or possibility. The communication device crackled. Commander Taemin, this is Captain Daewon. All hostile vessels disabled. No casualties on our side. 2 council patrol ships took damage, but crews are safe. We're standing by for instructions. Do you want us to board the raiders? Taemin looked at Velthar. Ambassador? Velthar seemed to come back to awareness. Yes, board them. Find out who they are, where they came from. But be careful. The raiders have fought in hand-to-hand combat before. They're dangerous. Taemin relayed the orders, then added, Captain, the ambassador is concerned about boarding actions. The raiders are apparently dangerous in close combat. There was a pause, then Daewon's voice came back with what might have been amusement. Commander, please inform the ambassador that humans wrote the book on boarding actions. Our Marines have been training for this since before we left Earth. We'll handle it. 20 minutes later, reports started coming back. The boarding teams had taken the raider ships without serious resistance. The incoming ship was enormous. Not as large as the Indomitable, but close. It was sleek and elegant, built from metals that shimmered with colors that seemed to shift as it moved. The design was clearly council work, sophisticated and beautiful, but this ship had something the other council vessels lacked. Weapons. Not many, but they were there, mounted along the hull in positions that suggested they were added recently. That's the Harmony's voice, Ambassador Velthar said, studying the display. It's from the Core Council, the founding species that created the Galactic Council 3,000 years ago. They're sending their diplomatic flagship. This is serious. Captain Daewon's voice came through Commander Taemin's communicator. Commander, I'm reading weapons on that ship. They're powering up their systems. Not targeting us yet, but they're getting ready for something. Hold position. Taemin ordered. Weapons called. Let's see what they want. The Harmony's voice took position between the Indomitable and the station, a clear statement of intent. They were placing themselves as mediators or barriers, possibly both. A new communication channel opened. The voice that came through was smooth and measured, translated into perfect human speech. This is High Counselor Namsung of the Core Council. We have received reports of combat in this sector. We are here to assess the situation and determine appropriate responses. Dr. Yoonji grabbed Taemin's arm. Wait, did the translator just say Namsung? That's a Korean name. Taemin blinked. The translator must be adapting to our language patterns, choosing names we'd find familiar. Maybe, Yoonji said. But she didn't sound convinced. Ambassador Velthar activated the communication system. High Counselor, this is Ambassador Velthar of Station Harmony. The situation has been resolved. The raiders who attacked us have been captured by our newest guests, a species called humanity. We are in negotiations regarding their admission to the council. There was a long pause. Then Namsung spoke again. The species that arrived in a Dreadnought-class warship? The ones who disabled 12 raider vessels in under 10 minutes? Those humans? Yes. High Counselor. We need to speak with them. Immediately. And we need to understand why you would consider admitting a warrior species to the council without core approval. General Crix growled softly. The Core Council always does this. They think they control everything. We're supposed to ask permission before we even have thoughts. Velthar shot the general a warning look before responding. Of course, High Counselor. The human delegation is here now. I can arrange a meeting. No, Namsung said. I want to meet them on their ship. I want to see this warship for myself. If they're to join the council, I need to understand what they're bringing with them. Taemin spoke into his communicator. Captain Daewon, the Core Council representative wants to come aboard the Indomitable. Your call. There was a pause. Taemin could almost hear the captain thinking through the implications. Letting alien officials aboard was a security risk, but refusing would be an insult that could doom any chance of joining the council. Permission granted, Daewon finally said. But they bring no more than 4 people, no weapons, and they submit to security scans. Same rules we followed. Taemin relayed the conditions. Namsung agreed without argument. 30 minutes later, Taemin found himself back aboard the Indomitable, standing in the main briefing room with Captain Daewon, Dr. Yoonji, and Lieutenant Hana. The room was military standard, functional and efficient, with displays showing the ship's status and the tactical situation outside. When High Counselor Namsung entered, followed by 3 other Core Council members, the humans got their first look at the species that had founded the Galactic Council. They looked almost human. Not exactly human, but close enough to be startling. They were taller, averaging about 2 meters, with skin that had a faint golden tone. Their eyes were larger, with an extra eyelid that occasionally flickered across. Their hands had 6 fingers instead of 5. But the overall shape, the basic structure, was remarkably similar to human form. You look surprised, Namsung said. The counselor's voice was smooth, and the face showed an expression that might have been amusement. You look like us, Dr. Yoonji said bluntly. Why? Convergent evolution, perhaps, Namsung said. Or perhaps the universe has a preferred shape for intelligent life. We've debated this question for millennia, but that's not why I'm here. The counselor's expression became serious. I've reviewed the combat recordings from today's engagement. Your ship performed with a level of precision and lethality we haven't seen in thousands of years. You disabled 12 hostile vessels without destroying a single one. That requires remarkable skill and equally remarkable restraint. Our weapons are designed for precision, Captain Daewon said. We don't kill when we can capture. We don't destroy when we can disable. Yet you could have destroyed them, Namsung observed. In the time it took you to disable those ships, you could have vaporized them all. But you chose not to. Why? Because unnecessary death serves no purpose, Daewon replied. Those raiders are beings presumably sentient, presumably with lives and maybe families. They made bad choices, but that doesn't mean they deserve to die. They deserve to face justice, to answer for their crimes. We gave them that chance. One of the other Core Council members, a being who introduced herself as Counselor Bora, stepped forward. You speak of justice, yet your species has a history of violence. We accessed your initial contact database. Your own transmissions into space contained information about your wars, your weapons, your conflicts. How can a species that nearly destroyed itself speak of justice? Lieutenant Hana spoke up before anyone else could. Because we learned what justice costs. Every war taught us. Every mistake showed us what happens when you forget that your enemies are people too. We learned by failing, by losing, by suffering the consequences of our actions. Most species learn those lessons before they develop advanced weapons, Bora said. Maybe that's their weakness, Hana replied. They learned to be peaceful when being peaceful was easy. We learned to be peaceful when being violent was easier. We chose the harder path because we knew what the easy path cost. Namsung studied Hana for a long moment. You're young for a senior officer. I'm good at what I do, Hana said simply. That's evident. Namsung turned back to Captain Daewon. Show me your ship, Captain. I want to understand what humanity has built. The tour took an hour. Daewon showed them the bridge, the weapons systems, the shield generators, the engine room. He explained the technology without revealing classified details, walking the line between transparency and security. The Core Council members asked questions, many questions, their expressions growing more thoughtful with each answer. In the armory, Nam Sung stopped in front of a display showing various weapons. These are your hand weapons? For individual combat? Yes, Daewon confirmed. We hope we never need them, but every crew member is trained in their use. You train everyone for combat? Even your scientists and engineers? Everyone, Daewon said. Because in an emergency, everyone needs to be able to protect themselves and others. We don't separate military and civilian. We're all one crew, one family, one species looking out for each other. Back in the briefing room, Nam Sung sat across from the human officers. I've made a decision. I'm going to recommend that the Core Council accept humanity's application to join the Galactic Council. But with conditions. What conditions? Taman asked. First, Earth will serve as a protector species. You'll provide military defense for Council space in sectors where we're vulnerable. Second, you'll share your tactical knowledge with Council defense forces. Not your weapons technology, but your strategies, your training methods. Third, you'll accept permanent observers aboard your military vessels. We need to ensure you're following Council laws and ethics. And in return, Daewon asked, full access to Council databases, trading rights across all member species, citizenship for any human who wishes to live in Council space, technology exchange programs, and most importantly, a voice in Council decisions. A real voice, not just observer status. Dr. Yoonji leaned forward. You said you're recommending this. Does that mean it's not certain? Namsung smiled, an expression that looked almost human. The Core Council will debate. Some will argue that humanity is too dangerous, too unpredictable. Others will argue that you're exactly what we need. But I've seen your ship, met your crew, witnessed your restraint in battle. I believe humanity has learned the hardest lessons life can teach. You've earned your place among the stars. When will we know the final decision? Taman asked. 3 days, Namsung said. The Core Council meets on the central station. They'll review everything, debate endlessly, and vote. But I'm confident. Today you proved something important. You proved that warriors can choose peace without losing their strength. After the Core Council delegation departed, the human officers gathered in the briefing room. Captain Daewon looked tired but satisfied. We did it, Hana said quietly. We actually did it. Humanity's joining the galactic community. Maybe, Daewon cautioned. 3 days is a long time for politicians to change their minds. They won't, Dr. Yoonji said. She was reviewing data on her tablet. I've been analyzing the power structures. The Core Council needs us. The emergency lights had stopped flashing, but the tension in the council chamber remained thick enough to cut. Ambassador Velthar had called for a private session with the human delegation. The other council members had been escorted to separate chambers, leaving only Velthar, General Creeks, and 3 other senior council members with the humans. They sat around a circular table that seemed to grow from the floor itself. Another example of the station's strange living architecture. Commander Taiman sat with Dr. Yoonji on his right and Kyung-soo on his left. The diplomats Ji-won, Sung-ho, and Minna sat behind them, quiet observers to what was clearly going to be a difficult conversation. We need to understand what we just witnessed, Velthar began. The ambassador's voice had lost its earlier nervousness. Now it carried something heavier. Your ship defeated 12 raider vessels in less than 9 minutes. Those same raiders have been attacking Council space for 7 years. We've lost 43 ships trying to stop them. Hundreds of lives. Multiple stations damaged or destroyed, and you defeated them as if they were children playing with toys. We had advantages, Taemin said carefully. Better weapons, better shields, better training. And we caught them by surprise. They weren't expecting resistance. No, General Crick said firmly. The scaled general leaned forward, his large eyes fixed on Taemin. Don't diminish what happened. I've fought in battles. I've commanded defense forces for 20 years. What your ship did wasn't just about better equipment. It was about knowing exactly how to use it. Your tactical officer didn't hesitate. Your captain made decisions instantly. Your crew moved like they were one organism. That kind of coordination comes from experience, from fighting many battles over many years. Dr. Yunji spoke up. He's right, Commander. We should be honest with them. She turned to face the council members. Humanity has been at war with itself for most of its history. We've fought with sticks and stones, with swords and spears, with guns and missiles, with nuclear weapons that could destroy cities in seconds. We've killed millions of our own species learning how to fight. The chamber fell silent. One of the other council members, a being that looked like it was made of segments held together by energy fields, made a sound that the translator interpreted as distress. You killed millions of your own kind? It asked. In wars? Against each other? Yes, Taemin confirmed. He felt shame saying it, but lying would be worse. We had 2 global wars in the 20th century alone. Millions died in each one. We developed weapons so terrible that using them threatened to destroy all life on our planet. We came very close to extinction several times. Then how are you here? Velthar asked. How did you survive? Species that develop weapons before wisdom usually destroy themselves. It's why there are so few sentient species in the galaxy. Most die before reaching the stars. We learned, Taemin said simply. Eventually. It took time, too much time, and cost too many lives. But we learned that fighting each other was going to kill us all. So we stopped. We united. We put aside our differences and worked together. It's been 80 years since the last war on Earth. 80 years, repeated the segmented being. We have species in the Council that haven't had conflicts in 80,000 years. You're infants by our standards, dangerous infants with weapons far beyond your maturity. Kyung-soo bristled at that. With respect, we just saved your station and your ships. If we're so dangerous and immature, why didn't we just take what we wanted? We have the power to do it. That's exactly what concerns us, Velthar said. You have the power. Right now, you're choosing not to use it. But what about tomorrow? What about when you want something we won't give you? What happens when humanity decides that talking is too slow and violence is easier? Dr. Yunji stood up, drawing everyone's attention. May I share something? A story from Earth's history? Velthar gestured for her to continue. There was a nation on Earth called Japan. Yunji began. In the mid-20th century, they fought a terrible war. Near the end of that war, another nation used nuclear weapons against them. 2 cities were destroyed in an instant. Hundreds of thousands died. Japan surrendered and the war ended. A cautionary tale about weapons, the segmented being said. We understand. No, that's not the point, Yunji continued. After the war, Japan rebuilt. They created a constitution that forbade them from having a military for offensive purposes. They became one of the most peaceful nations on Earth. They focused on technology, on culture, on building rather than destroying. The same people who had fought so fiercely became dedicated to peace. They proved that warrior cultures can choose peace without losing their strength. And you believe humanity is like this, Japan? Velthar asked. I believe humanity learned from all our mistakes, Yunji said, including Japan's story and 1,000 others like it. We know what war costs. We know what weapons can do. That's why we're so careful with them. That's why Captain Dae-Wan disabled those raiders instead of destroying them. We could have killed everyone on those ships in seconds. We chose not to. General Crix made a sound that might have been approval. The doctor is right. I've studied the battle recordings. Every shot was precise, calculated to disable without killing. That shows discipline. That shows restraint. It also shows practice, the segmented being said. How many battles has your species fought to develop such precision? How much blood was spilled learning these lessons? Taemin decided it was time for complete honesty. Too much blood. Millions died in our wars. Millions more died in smaller conflicts. We've fought wars over resources, over religions, over land, over ideas. We've committed terrible acts against each other. We've built weapons that could end all life on our planet several times over. Our history is soaked in blood. He let that sink in before continuing. But that's why we're here. That's why we survived to reach the stars, because we learned from every mistake. Every war taught us something. Every weapon showed us the cost of using it. We didn't become peaceful because we never knew violence. We became peaceful because we knew it too well. We saw where it led and we chose a different path. You chose to stop fighting each other, Velthar said slowly, but you never forgot how to fight. Exactly, Taman confirmed. We stopped fighting because we wanted to, not because we had to, not because we were conquered or forced. We chose peace. But we kept our weapons because the galaxy is bigger than Earth. We didn't know what we'd find out here, and based on what happened today, we were right to be prepared. One of the council members who hadn't spoken yet made a chittering sound. It was a small creature, barely a meter tall, with 6 limbs and a face full of small eyes. You saved us today. We cannot ignore that. But we also cannot ignore what you represent. You are everything the council has tried to move beyond. War, weapons, violence. Then maybe the council's philosophy is incomplete, Kyung-Soo said. Everyone turned to look at the security officer. He continued, unfazed by the attention. You built a civilization on peace and diplomacy. That's beautiful. But it only works when everyone agrees to follow the same rules. The raiders didn't follow your rules. They took advantage of your peaceful nature. How many people died while you filed reports and increased patrols? How many could have been saved if you'd been prepared to fight back? We would have become like them, the small creature said. Warriors, killers. No, Dr. Yoonji said gently. You would have become protectors. There's a difference. Warriors fight for conquest or glory. Protectors fight to keep others safe. That's what the Indomitable is. It's not a ship of conquest. It's a ship that stands between civilians and danger. Pretty words, the segmented being said. But words are cheap. How do we know you won't change? How do we know that in 50 years or 100, humanity won't decide that conquering is easier than cooperating? Taman stood up, placing his hands on the table. You don't know. You can't know? Just like we don't know if the council will betray us, or if some member species will try to steal our technology, or if you'll decide we're too dangerous and try to quarantine our system. Trust works both ways. But you have the power, Velthar said. That's not equal. Power is only part of the equation, Taman countered. You have knowledge we don't have, technology we haven't developed. You've been traveling the stars for thousands of years. You understand things about the galaxy we can't even imagine. You have your own kind of power. We're offering to share our strength if you'll share your wisdom. General Crick stood as well, his larger frame towering over the table. I say we accept. The raiders proved that our way isn't working. The galaxy isn't as safe as we pretended. We need warriors, not to conquer but to protect. And the humans have offered to be those warriors. At what cost? The small creature asked. What will they want in return? Before Taman could answer, alarms started blaring again. Not the harsh emergency tone from before, but a different sound, deeper and more urgent. Velthar moved to a control panel, his limbs moving with practiced speed. Another ship is entering the sector. Large energy signature. It's broadcasting council identification codes, but the signature doesn't match any known vessel type. Could be raiders with stolen codes, General Crick said. Or it could be one of the major council powers, Velthar said.
News of today's events is spreading.